Chairman Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Laring,
Here.
thank you. Commissioner Mahoney,
Here.
Commissioner Nash, Commissioner Nash, Commissioner Snyder,
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Walnut.
Here. Okay,
It would be
is there just one absent?
It's correct.
Okay, so we have a quorum. The
Who's
first,
absent?
Kathy, who was absent?
Charles.
Commissioner Nash,
He may be trying to get on. All right, the first item is the approval of the minutes of April 21st. They were included in your packets.
So move. Support.
Okay. Kathy, did you see who did what? Approval of the minutes was, the motion was made by Commissioner Foster. I think the support was, I'm not sure if it was Ken Mahoney or John
It was
Snyder.
Ken.
Okay. Okay, any comments or corrections on the minutes? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Okay. The minutes are approved. We now have time for public comment on an agenda item. I'm not sure how many are on this call. Is somebody from IT overseeing that? There they are.
I think it's actually Health West, Bob.
Okay.
it would be me, Commissioner Skolnick today.
Oh,
With help from Health West and Kristen Barnhill.
Okay, so now is the time for public comment on an agenda item, something on the agenda. If anybody out there would like to comment on something that's on the agenda, now is your opportunity. Kathy, how do they let you know?
They can raise their hand.
And what if they're on a call?
That would be a *9, I believe. Yes, *9.
Okay, if you'd like to make a public comment on an agenda item, either raise your hand. I see one person with his hand up. If you're on a phone call, hit *9. Okay, Sean?
Yes, in regards to Ways and Means 20/0536 and -37, this board continues to not question in any great detail the actions of your directors, who we the people will employ. Nearly every agenda item in the Ways and Means Committee is meant to increase the funding thereby enlarge the burden that you levy on the people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Kathy, do you see anybody else?
Mm.
I do not.
Okay. All right, we'll move on then to item 5. We have 2 presentations. The first one would be a COVID-19 update by our Public Health Director, Kathy Moore. I see more of Kathy Moore than anybody else in my life these days.
Yeah, and I guess I should apologize for that, Commissioner.
No, it's-
Kathy Moore, Public Health Director. I hope you guys received your most current profile of COVID-19 statistics for the County of Muskegon. As of late yesterday, we had a total of 317 cases with 18 deaths. The breakdown of those cases, 40% male, or 125 cases male, 191 cases female, which is 60%. The age groups continue to be reflected across all ranges. The highest range with 66 cases is the age group 50 through 59, which represents 21% of all cases. The next highest group is age group 20 to 29, which represents 56 cases and 18% of all cases. That would be followed by the age group 60 to 69. Again, we initially anticipated that age 70 and older would have the most critical impact, and 70 through 79 has 18 cases, which is approximately 6% of the confirmed cases, and ages 80 plus, 25 cases, approximately 80%. Approximately 8%. Most of those cases are nursing homes or long-term care facilities. And so that tells us that the older population, ages 70 and up, that's in the community, are actually doing a really good job with social distancing and isolation and staying home. The breakdown by race, we have 97 or 31% white, 136 or 43% Black, 6 other, which is 2%, 1 American Indian, 1 Asian, and we have 76 that we are still trying to contact to identify the race. Of the 18 deaths, 10 male, 8 female, 9 white, 7 Black, 1 Asian, and 1 unknown. And the case disposition for inpatient, outpatient, 9 were inpatient and 9 were outpatient. So 9, and this was at the time of death. So 9 individuals died in the hospital and 9 died outside of the hospital. And I guess to just give a little good news on this, there seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel based on the definition of recovered, and we are counting recovered as 30 days past the onset of symptoms or the test date if they were asymptomatic. We have 45 individuals classified as recovered, and we anticipate, based on our numbers, this time next week to have to claim 95 individuals recovered. So I will pause there for questions.
Anybody have questions? Go ahead, Marcia. You're muted.
Okay, yeah. Last time you gave a report, you said that the estimated peak in Muskegon County would be May 18th to the 22nd. Is that still your peak?
Yes, we are still going with that date as the peak. We, again, it's based on the formula, and we're saying that we'll have about 75% of our population as compliant with social distancing and wearing face coverings. Yes.
So may I, Bob?
Yes, go ahead.
Kathy, so you said 9 and 9. 9 died in the hospital, 9 passed at home. Is those the 9 that passed at home, they sent home from the hospital? Or just, what was the reasoning? That sounds a little off.
For them to die at home.
Was it their wish? I guess I'm trying to figure this out.
So I don't know if they're I know 2 cases for sure that just sort of died alone in their home, and I don't know if it was their wish or it's possible that their symptoms got worse before they could get back to the hospital. I believe 2 of the outpatients were hospice. Well, I know 2 of them were hospice related, and that is the normal wish or process for hospice to either die at home or in a hospice house in the care of hospice. And then the others, we'd have to go back and see. I don't know why they died at home.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. And the other question, do you know how many are on ventilators currently in our county, if any?
So we meet with the hospitals now. I used to meet with them every day. Now we meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2. And the last report they gave, they had 0 patients on a ventilator system. But
Perfect.
that
Thank you.
changes from day to day.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Commissioner, just for a question for Kathy, the contract tracing, which is becoming a new word in my vocabulary, seems to be going to be a requirement at some point in time. And hopefully the federal government will come up with some cash to do that. Do we have a plan in place to do that?
We have several plans, and if you notice, the state had a couple of large contracts for contact tracing, and then that was rescinded based on a process. And now they have a list of volunteers. I believe it's over 8,500 volunteers. The concern would be that they initially approached us with more of an all or nothing, meaning that they would take all of our contact tracing or none of them, and that's a little concerning because actually we have different levels for depending on the type of positive case. I have nurses assigned to long-term care facilities. Some assigned, like Health West helps us with all of the adult foster care facilities. I actually work with any case related to Muskegon County. So I work with my counterparts in contact tracing and epi investigation for those. So the only concern, so we really could use their help, especially if we can expand testing like the state would like. But we would still like to have some control over those special contacts.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Skolnick, I have a question for Kathy.
Oh, yeah, okay, Zach. Go ahead.
What is the process if during contact tracing, if you're in contact with somebody that does not want to be tested?
So there's only been one case, and that was somebody who showed up at the hospital. And because it is a nonprofit hospital, they just did not get the testing. If they have been identified as a close contact of a positive case and they don't want to get tested, they are considered a probable or a suspect case. So they're still put in the database. The question would really be, or the biggest problem would be, if they didn't want to share like where they've been for the past few days or who they've been in contact with.
Okay.
But otherwise their name, their date of birth, and everything is still put into the MDSS, which stands for Michigan Disease Surveillance System.
Okay. And then one last question. Are you doing any in your interviews, how many of these COVID cases in Muskegon County are regular match users? Do you have a percentage?
We don't. Only if they identify that that they do use the system. And so if we identify anybody as a positive, they are placed under isolation. And then if we identify close contacts, they're placed on quarantine, and we ask them not to use public transportation or even the Uber and things like that. They're supposed to stay home, but if they don't, we ask that they not do that.
But so my second part of my question, but you have no idea how many of these users are, or how many of these cases actually use the match. It's not part of your questionnaire.
No, it's not.
Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, Kathy, it's my understanding that the contact tracers require a fair amount of training, that it's not just a easy thing, that there are a lot of details that needed to be trained. So is there a plan to train those 8,500 volunteers?
Yes, so the state has sent us a copy of the script, and a presentation slideshow that trains them. A lot of the training is related to, the confidentiality and the HIPAA of that, but also a good portion of it is basically just helping them calm the situation, because they're saying, like, within the training, that some people may be upset that either they've been identified as a close contact, they may be upset that we will not tell them who the positive case was that exposed them, or they may be upset that they've been asked to quarantine. So the actual investigation is a script that's followed, and a lot of the training is just trying to deal with sort of mental health situations.
Okay,
But I do have that.
is that it? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Kathy. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
The next is a presentation from Raymond Robson, our auditors, the 2019 CAFR report, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Are they there?
Yes, but I'm going to do a quick introduction, Bob, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yep. No, Beth, go ahead.
So yes, in just a moment, our partner from Raymond Robinson, Paul Matz, will be doing a PowerPoint presentation to walk you through the audited financial report, which you all received a hard copy of on Friday. Right. So I hope you all have it close by that you can flip through it as he goes through that. But I do want to just take a moment to let you know that preparing all the information that the auditors need and to come up with the actual final audit report takes months of preparation time by the accounting staff. And normally I would have them sitting in the audience if we were in person, but I think many of them are online right now, and I just want to recognize them for just a quick moment. Dwight Avery, Angie Gashesky, Carson Lehigh, Patty Rader, Karen Miller, Jamie Burmeister, Mindy Menger, Amy Rixey, and Mary Jo Gentry all had a part in some way, shape, or form in getting all this information ready for the audit, and finalizing the audit takes many hours of preparation, as well as working with a lot of the financial staff out in the various departments doing all the year-end journal entries. So I just want to thank everyone for all their hard work and time they put into that. The auditors come in mid-January, and they finish their field work usually by the end of February, and then wrap things up in the office with the final report issuance toward the end of March. So I just want to thank all the people that put in a lot of time and hard work, not just in the accounting staff, but all the departments to complete the audit. And then I will turn it over to Paul Matz.
All right, thank you and good afternoon. And I believe somebody has a PowerPoint that they'll be able to share with the group. And while that's loading, I would just, echo Beth's comments to thank her and Dwight and the whole audit team. They do an outstanding job for us. It's probably of no surprise that the audit's not a particularly enjoyable process for them to go through, but I think we work well together and hopefully make it as painless as possible. But again, very much appreciate your support. Well, if you want to flip to the next slide, please. Just here to share the results of the audit for the year ended September 30 of 2019. And ultimately, as part of the audit process, our goal is to issue an opinion on the financial statements as to whether we believe that those financial statements are accurate in all material respects. And as you can see here, and I've tried to indicate the page numbers throughout on these slides in case you want to follow along on the paper copy. But that audit opinion can be found within our independent auditor's report on pages 17 to 19. And what we issued was the clean, unmodified audit opinion. It's the highest audit opinion that you can receive as part of the audit process. And that's our way of saying that, yes, we believe the financial statements are accurately stated, believe them to be then useful and reliable for decision-making processes. Now, if we can move to the next slide. So as part of the audit, if we identify, in addition to looking at the numbers, testing the transactions, the balances, we also look at the system of internal controls, and where we identify weaknesses or concerns, we will share a comment with you related to those. Very pleased to note that we had no items in which you would consider audit findings, which is on the previous slide. No audit findings that we consider these material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. There were a couple of very minor items that we noted related to the audit, only one of which related to the county, related to the timeliness of a particular tax disbursement. And then there were also a couple of minor items that we noted in connection with the separate reporting that we did as part of the Drain Commission financial statements also. So those are available in the final documents, but those are really just some internal control considerations and not items that we consider audit findings. So hopefully that's a positive takeaway from this presentation. I wanted to talk through a couple of particular areas of interest and then jump into some of the financial results. And the first area of interest I wanted to bring to your attention is the transmittal letter that can be found on pages 3 to 11. There's a couple of different sections within this, a brief profile of the county, information on the financial condition, major initiatives, award and acknowledgements. And I like to point out this section because it is something that management puts together in narrative form. It provides a lot of context behind the financial results for the year. So what did we accomplish with the use of the funds during the year? And so I think it's just a good, helpful reminder of some of the information, the activities that took place during the year. Next slide, please. So another item I wanted to mention was the management's discussion and analysis, which you can find on pages 22 to 34. The full financial statements, again, over 200 pages. They seem to grow and grow every year. I like to point out this section because it provides just a good high-level summary of the financial results for the year. There's also comparative information for the most recent years, so you can see some fluctuations, some trends. Again, management helps with a lot of the narrative within that section. It also touches on the 2020 budget and looking forward as well. So again, just provides in a very few pages a good high-level, comprehensive summary of the financial results for the year. If we can move to the next slide, please. So what I wanted to share is, a number of different financial results, metrics at the end of the fiscal year. And the first is the overall cash and net position analysis. And what I want to clarify here is that cash and net position are two very different things. Certainly cash is what you'd expect, cash and investments, that would be with a financial institution. But net position is essentially what's left over after you consider all of the assets, including cash, and all of the liabilities. So certainly you'll see differences in those amounts. And I've got it broken down here between governmental activities and business type activities. And what those governmental activities represent are, for example, the general fund, special revenue funds, those, governmental type activities that take place. Whereas the business type activities are those funds that sort of operate, like the name says, like a business. Take the wastewater fund, solid waste, etc. That's in the business type activities section. So whereas in total, if you would look at the financial statements, there's about $57.5 billion in cash and investments. You'll notice that almost 46 million of that is what's in those business type activities. Again, that wastewater, solid waste type funds. with closer to about 12 million in the governmental activities, the general fund and those similar fund types. The net position numbers that you see below, again, what's that residual or leftover, you can see is in brackets for the governmental activities because that's actually a deficit net position. Similar, that unrestricted piece is a deficit as well of about 109 million. That is very largely, really entirely attributable to the pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities, which need to be reported as part of these financial statements. So just wanted to share that at a high level, and just to keep in mind that cash and net position are two very different considerations. Next slide, please. So a couple of slides that focus then on the general fund. You know, this is maybe the format that you're more accustomed to seeing, that focus on the general fund, which you can find the balance sheet on page 40 and the income statement on page 42. So for the general fund at September 30, the cash and investment were right about $1 million at the end of the year. There were also a significant number of receivables of about 10.7 million, a good portion of that being taxes that were outstanding and receivable at the end of the year. And then I wanted to also bring attention to the fund balance, which was 9,946,000 at the end of the year. Very similar to what we talked about on the previous slide. You know, the fund balance and the cash are two very different things. Cash, again, is what's sitting in your bank account at the end of the year, but the fund balance considers all of the other assets, all of the other liabilities within the general fund at the end of the year. Keep in mind also that, you know, the fund balance you have is going to need to tide you over until additional revenues come in during the subsequent fiscal year. I just wanted to be sure to point out that difference between the cash and the fund balance now. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we can see how the general fund's fund balance changed from the previous fiscal year end to the current. There was an increase in fund balance for the year of $880,273. A lot of times, you know, municipalities are curious about what their fund balance is as a percentage of their expenditures and transfers out for the year. The total for Muskegon County was 19.8% for the fiscal year. And that's, you know, if we remove that, you know, significant MERS lump sum contribution that was made towards the pension obligation, obviously that significant amount is going to throw off the percentage. And so I back that out for purposes of this computation. And so that calculates about 2.4 months of expenditures in your ending fund balance. And that percentage is above the minimum fund balance policy threshold that the county has set. Next slide, please. Wanted to take a moment also to discuss Health West balance sheet and income statement, because if you're looking at the general fund, you can't help but notice that information on that same page as well. So I've presented much of the same information, but you can see most of the information here is in brackets. So what that's reflecting is that cash was actually a negative balance of about 10.2 million at the end of the year. And the fund balance was a deficit of nearly $12 million. A fund balance for the year decreased. And so what I wanted to bring to you is largely attributable to is item on the financial statements called inflows sources essentially relate to the timing of when funds were received after the end of the fiscal year. If funds are received within what's called a period of collectability, 90 days after the end of the fiscal year, they're recognized as revenue. But if they're not received until after that time, they're included in this deferred category. So essentially, that's the fancy accounting way of saying that that deficit is really the result of the receivables not being collected in a timely basis. And that's, you know, certainly completely out of the control of Health West. And I know they're working to get those amounts to be collected. Is anyone else having issues with the PowerPoint showing up on their screen? I'm showing a green screen at present.
I am also.
What I-
Oh,
Just
there we
came
go.
back.
We're back. So just keep in mind that help desk information, it's really largely attributable to timing of collections of their receivables, which I know they are, very strongly working towards resolution on. Next slide, please. So my last couple of slides focus on those long-term. Looks like I went green again on the slide.
Same here.
There we go.
Yep.
So this is presenting information on this net pension liability at the end of the fiscal year. And I've also got comparative information to September of 2018. You can see that at September of 2019, that liability was about $50.3 million, a very significant decrease from what that liability was at the end of the previous year of about $94.2 million. As I'm sure you're all aware, that decrease is primarily attributable to the bonding that took place and the lump sum payments then that were able to take place towards that liability during the current year. As a percentage of the total liability, there's about 80.9% of amount that's set aside in trust towards the repayment of that pension liability. Next slide. I believe this is the last one for us. So the next slide focuses instead on the pension side on the other post-employment benefits. Essentially, that's the retiree health care. At the end of the fiscal year, there's actually a net asset of about 1.2 or 1.3 million. You can see that's very significantly different from the amount at the end of the previous fiscal year. And that's primarily been driven by changes in the actual assumptions that took place that I know county managed on some of those actuarial assumptions. So, that number changed very significantly due in large part just due to actuarial assumption changes. And I think this sort of reemphasizes just how significant of an impact the actuarial assumptions have both on pension and other post-employment benefit amounts. So I think the next slide, the last slide, is really just where I've left some contact information. If you have any questions after this meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out. But I would also be happy to entertain any questions at this time.
All right. Kathy, could we get the screen with everybody back on it? With all the, yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Paul? I have one, Paul. If the Health West balance, say, was reduced, say they paid us $10 million, would that increase, that would just increase the cash then? Paul? Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I was going to
I can hear you.
my internet was skipping out, so if you could repeat the
Okay, I'm
question,
just saying,
please.
Health West currently owes, or there's a receivable there for $10 or $11 million. If they paid us $10 million, would that all go to the cash part? Would that as part of our fund, our net assets?
Yes, that would come as part of the cash amount. It would reduce that deficit essentially by that cash amount that was received.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Now's your chance. I don't see anybody. All right, Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks. All right, we've got 2 more committee meetings and we're just getting into the items for consideration. We'll move on to item 6, items for consideration. The first one is WM 20/05-36. Hey, Kathy, why don't you put the agenda back up now? This is to approve payment of the accounts payable of $14,731,775.84 covering the period of April 10th, 2020 through April 24th, 2020 for checks, P-card, and electronic fund transfer payments covering the period March 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2020, as presented by the county clerk. Kathy, did you hear, Kathy? Could you put the agenda up, or are you having trouble? There you go. Okay. Commissioner Wilkins, did you?
Yes, I made,
Okay,
yes.
I will
I'll
second
support
it.
that.
okay. Commissioner Mahoney, Commissioner Wilkins made the motion and Commissioner Mahoney supported it. Are there any questions, or Beth is on? Are there any questions? If not, we'll vote.
Yeah.
Yes, Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, just the general, I mean, I see the detail of what it all was, but that seems like a lot more than what we usually see, and maybe somebody can explain that.
Beth,
Yeah, this is Beth Dick, Director of Finance. The part of the reason this is a larger amount is because this includes electronic fund transfers. And if you look in the summary where I list out the larger payments, you can see that item number 12 is $3.6 million of debt service payments to the Michigan Finance Authority for wastewater debt service. We also have a large payment to the Road Commission for 1.5 million. And then I do list out a lot of the other larger ones. Many of them are Health West, but we also had a large payment to the Lakeshore Museum. So the detail report was sent out to you with all the information. Oh, and actually, I think there was also a large payment that I didn't list to Muskegon Community College, which is also a property tax distribution.
okay. When we do the agenda review, that always comes up. We're aware that 14 million is a lot. I'm sorry, who was next?
Just me, Bob, just to point out that most of these are fund transfers from taxes we have collected or things, and we're just distributing them. We're not raising taxes to cover it.
Okay, I can't see everybody. Anybody else speak up if you want to ask a question? If not, we'll vote. We'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay. The next item is WM 20/05-37 to approve a budget amendment increasing the fiscal year 2020 budget.
She can't hear anything.
You can't hear?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. This is WM 20/05-37 to approve a budget amendment increasing the fiscal year 2020 budget for state institutions 1010-0650 from $198,000 to $731 and authorize paying the invoice of $402,317.41 to the state of Michigan. I need a motion and support, hopefully.
I will so move.
Support.
Okay, Kathy, did you get that? Okay, are there any questions on this? This had to do with some prior state invoices going back as far as 2013, I think. Brandy, you're in the audience, are you not?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, Brandy.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Questions? Yes, sir.
just if Brandy can give us a brief explanation of the invoices and what they're for, and that it's not Health West, it's a process.
Yes, absolutely. So the state inpatient or psychiatric inpatient stays, county individuals. These are
I can't hear anything, and all I can see is me. I can't see anybody else's picture.
Oh, wait, just a
Commissioner
second.
Hughes, we can
Sorry.
hear you talk. There we
We
go.
can hear you.
So for the state inpatient, what happens are these are individuals that are admitted to state institutions for psychiatric care, whether they were admitted because they were not guilty to stand trial by reason of insanity. There's also what's called IST, incompetent to stand trial. So these are individuals that go through that process, as well as individuals that may go through processes via Health West for admission due to psychiatric care. So what happens is Health West monitors individuals when they are admitted. We are notified whether they're an individual we serve or not. We are notified so that we can clinically monitor and assist with transitions to the community as well. Also with any care is needed. What we do is we then review these bills. These are bills that are due by the County of Muskegon. Whether we are an authority or not, the counties are responsible for 10% cost of individuals that are admitted to state institutions within their county. So what happens is myself and a clinical manager reviews these to make sure they're appropriate or not. Unfortunately, what had happened is the state was very, very behind across the board statewide. So we had a new individual come on at the state level who had worked diligently to clean up these accounts. So this $402,000 ranges back to fiscal year 2013 and forward on individuals, whether they had forgot to bill us, forgot to let us know that maybe individuals were there, or had come off probation. And I believe that's in here as well. So what happens is if they now were in incompetent to stand trial status and they are now off of probation, then that changes to a bill status. We're responsible for those bills. So a lot of those, they forgot to notify us, or we were not notified they were probated. So this is a catch-up bill in order to go back and appropriately balance out the entire County of Muskegon account with state institutions.
Are there any other
Thank you.
questions?
Yes, I have a question, Commissioner Skolnick.
Okay.
I'm wondering if Brandy can explain to us why we would pay the state $400,000 when they owe us $10 million.
That's a very good question. This is a different state department. So all I can say is that I would continue to approve these, or at least let the county know that they meet payment requirements on my side. Different state department though.
Zach, that's
Commissioner Skolnick, can I add something to that?
yes, you may. Go ahead.
I think we also have to understand too that if we do not approve this, this could jeopardize any further funding coming in through Health West also.
This all came up at the agenda review meeting. I mean, we discussed the same thing. All right, anybody else? If not, we'll vote on item 37. I'm sorry, yeah, item 37. All those in favor say aye.
Bob, can we do a roll call?
Okay, Kathy, roll call, please.
Commissioner Foster,
No.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Susie,
I think she may be frozen.
is she
She's sleeping.
muted? Can anybody see?
She's having difficult hearing on her end.
Yeah, her screen is black.
She's not muted. It's something on her end, potentially her internet connection.
Okay.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Mark, could you call her?
Yes, we're on the phone with her now. At least Kristen is, I believe.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick,
Yes.
Calling her back.
Okay,
it's 6 yes,
did you
2
get a?
no, 1 no reply.
We lost her on the phone as well. Her phone dropped dead, so we're calling her back.
Her phone dropped.
Well, whatever. I mean, the motion passes no matter what happens.
Hello.
There she is.
We hear you.
Right.
Susie, we're voting on,
But if I say something, you can hear me.
can you hear
But
me?
I
Yes.
can't hear anybody say anything.
We're hearing you loud and clear.
We're voting on item 7, that budget amendment for Health West to pay
Okay.
the old psychiatric hospital bills.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I think she's on the phone as well, saying okay to Christine.
Well, for now, Kathy, why don't you leave it 6-2 and no response? If we get her on the phone and she answers before the meeting's over, we can change it. It's not going to change the outcome of the vote. All right, the next item is WM 20/05-38.
Yes.
Authorize the sale. Was that a yes? Yeah, okay. Authorize the sale of the 2007 Ford Taurus, VIN number 1FAFP53UX7A113711 through Medema Auctioneering Incorporated.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been supported. We did our due diligence at the meeting. The car is bad.
I have a question.
Yes, Marcia.
Is the car drivable? I noticed the sale price is 150, which seems kind of low, but that's not my area.
Matt is an expert in this car.
Yeah, that's the minimum price. It's the minimum bid. And if we don't get that, we know we can get that at a junkyard.
The car, it's got holes rusted in the floor. It doesn't, Matt, that car didn't run, did it?
I'm looking at what Health West submitted to us. It needs a heater core. It needs, it's got an antifreeze leak. It's got a head gasket. And the biggest thing is the floorboards are rusted out. And going back to Commissioner Hovey, right? It's a minimum. The $150 is the minimum sale price. If someone was to bid $100, we'll just take it to the junkyard where we can get at least $150 for it. That's just a minimum.
So it is not drivable. It's not. It doesn't work.
Correct. If it's got antifreeze leaking, no, it is not drivable.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes, Commissioner
I just
Mahoney.
have a quick question. Why can't we set up just a standard policy on these sales instead of bringing each individual junkyard car to the county commission to okay or not okay? Can we set up some sort of guidelines and let the staff deal with it rather than at a board level meeting?
Well, I believe our asset liquidation power, I believe it's in a policy that, this is liquidating a publicly owned asset, and these things historically have gone to the commission. Beth, do you have anything to add to that?
You're correct. It's just the way the policy is written. I mean, if you wanted to modify the policy for it to be over a certain dollar amount, I can't remember if it already has a specified dollar amount in it today, but we could take a look at that and see if there's some possible modification we'd bring back to you.
Why don't we bring, it's already 4:20. We've got 2 more meetings to go through. Why don't we
I
bring-
just had a question.
No, I understand.
I'm not proposing we do that. Just investigate it.
Okay. All right.
So, Commissioner Skolnick, I do have a question about this. What happens to the proceeds from this car? And are there plans to replace this car and buy a new car? What's the agenda for this?
Beth can answer where the proceeds go. I believe it just goes into the general fund. As far as plans to replace the car, that would be up to Health West.
Would that come before the board also?
They're on this. This is Mark. They're on the call here. Brandy or Julia, you want to talk about your vehicles?
So our vehicles do go to the Health West Board for approval for purchases. I can tell you right now, we have no current plans to replace any vehicles.
Thank you.
And this is Beth. If the initial purchase of the vehicle came out of the county's equipment revolving fund, the proceeds would go back into the equipment revolving fund.
Okay, this is item number 38. We'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion passes. The final item is WM 20/05-39 to approve the continuation of the local surcharge rate of $2.75 from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, and authorize the Muskegon Central Dispatch to provide proper notification of this to the State 911 Committee.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so this.
We do have the executive director here joining us today, Jason Wolford, if you have any questions.
This is just the voters passed this, what, a year ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, we have to approve this every year, is that correct?
Correct, correct.
Okay. So it's just routine, but we have to do it. So basically, it's the current rate. We're just extending it for another year, and we will. I don't remember, was that a 10-year millage or surcharge rather? I don't remember how many years it was.
Yes, I don't recall myself.
Yeah. Jason, can you hear?
Yes, I think I'm muted.
We heard
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It goes through 2032. And just so that the commission is aware, this is something that we're constantly evaluating on an annual basis. A draft pro forma and budget that was put together by the previous director. So we are, like I said, we're constantly updating and making sure if we're able to lower this at any time that will set benefits taxpayers.
Commissioner Skolnick?
Yes.
At some point, could we have the 911 board give us an update as to where they're at with the towers and how close they are to getting all of that stuff done?
Mark,
good
will
idea.
you have that done?
I'll schedule that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. This is item number 39. We'll vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, on a voice vote, that motion passes. The next item is old business. Does anyone have any old business to bring before Ways and Means? New business. Does anyone have anything to bring before the Ways and Means Committee for new business? And now we have public comment. If anybody would like to make a comment on anything, now is your opportunity. If you're on a phone, dial *9. If you're on a video call, raise your hand. I don't see anybody raising their hand. I notice Ken Sanford has been smiling for the whole hour.
It's a lot of work.
That's hard to smile for that long. All right, no public comment, final board comments. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're adjourned.